The Charlotte Hornets made an inquiry about Ben Simmons. Should the Hornets explore that further? We'll talk about that. Plus, Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors will join us today to discuss the Hornets game tonight against Toronto. It's all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. This episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Check them out at prizepicks.com. You can check us out on Twitter, Walker Mail, Doug Branson, LOH, Locked On Hornets. Those are the handles on Twitter. You can also search Locked On Hornets on YouTube, where we have about 850 subscribers, 150 more. And we're going to paint our face purple and teal. That's what's going to take place at whatever point you guys dictate. If we get 150 tomorrow, then we're going to have to go back to the good old online shopping, finding some face paint, and have my history look that much more embarrassing, having one, an ordered bee suit, and two, purple and teal face paint. That's what's going to be there just as much as and just as soon as you guys subscribe to us on YouTube. So we appreciate you joining us. Doug Branson coming up with those two excellent ideas. Here's another idea that you may deem excellent. Maybe you don't, Doug. I don't know. We've talked a lot about the big guy trade proposals. Miles Turner, Christian Wood. I mean, even a Nick Claxton has been thrown in there. We know that the Hornets have needed a center for quite a while. Well, what about a more unconventional center, right? Ben Simmons for the Philadelphia 76ers. There was a report from Shams Charania of The Athletic that the Hornets were one of the new teams that have reached out to Philadelphia, maybe just to see. We don't know the extent. We don't know how much talks progressed between Daryl Morey and Mitch Kupchak, which, by the way, seems like a hilarious negotiation between those two. It just does to me. Like Daryl Morey, very different from what Mitch Kupchak is. Either way, I don't know how far those talks actually did progress. Probably Mitch Kupchak just calling saying, hey, what's up? How much would it take? What do you think? I don't know.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
So Ben Simmons,
Things
right?
good?
This guy, you know, what are you thinking about him?
I'm thinking that it would be very interesting. You'd have to give up a ton. I mean, you're probably talking about Hayward, Oubre, multiple first-round picks. I mean, we know that Philadelphia is toying with the idea of reducing the asking size for Ben Simmons because this process has dragged on. But we also know that Philadelphia seemingly is okay with just riding out this season, having done nothing with Ben Simmons. They're ready to really. This game of chicken has gone on for a long time between Ben Simmons and Philadelphia just does not seem like they're going to let Ben Simmons go for anything less than exactly what he would be worth in a reasonable market where your player is not just sitting out. So it would make their defense better, right? I mean, it would.
Oh, yeah. No, it would. And just to do some house cleaning real quickly, you see that the Hornets did reach out to the 76ers, but there was nothing substantive, is what was written here by Sean. Substantive. Submarine. There's nothing submarine about this. And so it doesn't seem like they progressed all that much, but who knows exactly how much it went down this path. Look, we've talked about Ben Simmons before when Nada and I were discussing it, right, when he was first on the trade block. I just think it's a lot of money to be paying for a guy that is not your number one option, especially if you're going to have to pay LaMelo Ball. And I am usually I am pro player 100% of the way. And I think Philadelphia has done some things to really ruin that relationship for sure. I think Doc Rivers has been a little too reactive instead of making sure, hey, let me be level-headed in some of the comments I make about Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid was certainly frustrated after that game, and you can even understand, right, some of these mistakes that Philadelphia made to some degree, but that's what they were. They were some mistakes, yet Ben Simmons, man, like, we know that this is a guy that has been unwilling to change, Doug. We know that this is – I love the fact that people are like, hey, just force him to shoot. Just hire a really good shooting coach and then try to figure it out. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't Doc Rivers think of that? Like, that's the dumbest stuff ever because when you put that simple of an idea out and think that the 76ers haven't tried that, and Ben Simmons, there are plenty of reports on him just not being receptive to anything that might better his game offensively. It's the weirdest thing to have somebody that is quote unquote selfish and yet not want to shoot the ball. You know, like he wants to rebound, he wants to pass, he wants to play defense. That's great. How is that guy described as crazy selfish? But he is, because he refuses to shoot. And if you're paying top dollar for that player, I just don't want it, especially when you consider all you're going to have to give up, because Daryl Morey is asking for the world.
So let me play Simmons devil's advocate here. If you did in a dream scenario where you didn't give up all of your shooting, you didn't have to give up Hayward and Rozier and Oubre and just like clean out your outside shooting, then bringing Ben Simmons into this roster would actually probably be pretty effective, because you do have a lot of shooting on this roster already. Also, I think that this situation would be very different for Simmons. Different kind of coach. Borrego is not a Doc Rivers kind of coach in terms of how he speaks about players in the media, and he seems to get along with players decently, even players, young players, veteran players. He seems to have garnered the respect of everyone in the locker room. You never hear any players really speaking out too vociferously about the game plan or the situation that they're put in by the coach. So I think this would be a good change of scenery for Ben Simmons. And he would be somebody that would be interesting to pair alongside LaMelo Ball because of his defensive abilities, some things that he would cancel out, some weaknesses from LaMelo Ball that he would cancel out, and some exciting plays in transition that I can imagine between LaMelo Ball and Ben Simmons. So, look, I mean, I don't care about the money. Honestly, I don't. I'm not a money guy. I'm like, bring some stars to Charlotte. If you can bring some star players to Charlotte, I don't care if they're 1, 2, 3. As long as they're star players and they can get the Hornets to be competitive in the playoffs, that I don't really care about the money. It's not my money. It's the team's money. So
oh no, I don't. I mean, but it's how the team is affected though by salary cap. I mean, if it didn't count against the cap, then I wouldn't care either. But when you talk about limiting other things that it can go to as far as the resources to help you get there, Ben Simmons getting $38 million by the end of his contract, that's going to affect you when you try to get those other stars, and even paying the ones that currently
but he could be one of
like
if whether he's 1 or 2. I mean, he's going to be one of the better players on your team. Like,
but
it's not like he's going to be the 4th best player on the team.
What the problem is though is that, like, we're talking about Doc Rivers, who is one of the more noted players coaches of all time, and we have seen some guys not exactly be the most happy with James Borrego. They're just not crazy loud about it, which kind of speaks to the players. We know Cody Zeller was somebody that was pretty open with his, unhappiness with the role. I want somebody that appreciates me. Yeah, it's Cody Zeller compared to Ben Simmons, but I mean, Cody Zeller's feeling that way.
Do something in the box score. You want to be appreciated. You want to be appreciated. Do something. I'm pretty sure Ben Simmons can put up some box score stats.
Yeah. Give me what you're doing. You're going to pay that much money for a guy that also doesn't put up a whole lot of points in the box score. You want the assist. You want, some really good defense like that shows up in the advanced box score. You're going to need some blocks and steals to show up. It's just too much, especially when you're talking about getting rid of, good God, 2 first-round picks, Miles Bridges, and PJ. Like, we know Daryl Morey, at least reportedly, this can get a little dicey, but has reportedly turned down some pretty big offers that would be even better than what the Hornets would realistically offer to Philadelphia. And at that point, it's like, no, man. Like, no, I'm good. I don't know how much better.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The cost has to come down significantly, and I think that's why the Hornets name comes up here. It is like, hey, backup plan. We're sitting here, and we, maybe we could talk if things fall apart with some other situations. I don't expect the Hornets to throw a blockbuster offer to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons. I hope they don't do that. Certainly, anything is on the table at this point, because I think the Hornets clearly, if they want to be competitive in the playoffs, need to make some kind of move. We'll just see if this is one of the moves they opt to make.
Yeah, Ben Simmons now just the latest name added to a possible trade candidate.
It's going to get interesting as we get closer to this deadline. Teams are going to get desperate. Maybe the Hornets, one of those teams that gets desperate.
Very, very close to doing so. Let's talk about LaMelo Ball himself, the actual star on the Charlotte Hornets team currently. And the offense lately, maybe LaMelo's struggles shooting from the field. We'll get to all that in just a moment. Sean Woodley also going to be joining us in the third segment. But first, I want to talk to our listeners, and for our listeners who served in or worked for the United States Marine Corps or have family or friends who might have, I wanted to notify you of an available resource. From 1953 to 1987, personnel assigned to Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune were potentially exposed to contaminated drinking water. The Marine Corps has since partnered with health agencies to conduct scientific studies to assess impacts from these potential exposures, and they are working to keep those Marines, their families, and civilian employees informed with updates and resources available to them. If you or someone you know may have been at Camp Lejeune during those years, please consider registering with the Camp Lejeune Historic Drinking Water Notification Database. You can learn more and register at www.marines.mil/CLwater. That's www.marines.mil/CLWATER, CL Water, and that is the website you can go to. So appreciate them for helping us out here on Locked On Hornets. Also want to make sure that you guys go check out Prize Picks. Prize Picks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. Prize Picks offers more NBA props than any other DFS prop operator, and they offer all the superstar players as well as the bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. Prize Picks offers any prop you can think of, from points, assists, rebounds, threes made. You pick 2 to 5 players and over and under on those projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. That's it. Prize Picks also allows mixed sports entries, so you can go from NFL to NBA. It really doesn't matter. Go to prizepicks.com today or go to your app store and download the app. All users that deposit and use the promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. That's right. All users that deposit and use promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first Prize Picks entry scores just one single point. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Let's talk LaMelo Ball coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So if you don't believe in the moon landing, then what would you say is the greatest human achievement?
I think the greatest achievement of all time, and I think it's Vince Carter doing 360s clockwise rather
really
than counterclockwise.
I've tried it. It's really tough.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
I'm sure our guest, Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors, might like that bump referencing Vince Carter. I want to ask him if Vince Carter is still like the best Raptor of all time when we get to that.
Whoa, big question. That's a big sports radio question by the sports radio professional.
It's my specialty, Doug. I mean, of course, I want to fire off these takes. I want to force others to fire off these takes, and then we want to tweet it out with no context. I don't care what he says about Vince Carter. Maybe it's going to be Kyle Lowry, maybe DeMar DeRozan. I don't know. But we're going to put that out there.
I'm breaking out the Hornets Greats shirt. I found this. I went into the attic. I've been missing my bobblehead collection since I moved to Tennessee, and I found it in the attic, and I found all my bobbleheads. I put them up behind me. You can see it on YouTube. But I also found this shirt from the 30th anniversary team. It's got Dell, it's got Glenn, it's got Muggsy, it's got Zoe. Love this shirt. All these shirts, though, are extra larges. And if you're extra large, it's great. I mean, all of these giveaways, it's a perfect size for you. Yeah, Walker, you're in the money. Me, I'm a large, and so it's one size up. And I've always been reticent to wear these things because it's baggy. But now everything I wear is baggy. Like it's leisure wear is in, and so big T-shirts are coming back.
Is that what kind of life is that for you? Is that because you have a child now? Is that because COVID allows us to be baggy and nobody can see, so who cares? Or is that just the stage you are in your life?
The answer is D, all of the above. Yeah. Definitely blame it on the kid. When you have a kid, you can blame everything on the kid. And also on, COVID, work from home. I'm barely wearing pants.
Real quickly, with that T-shirt, I always appreciated that one more than other ones because they gave a nod to Gerald Wallace, right? Somebody that wasn't a Charlotte Hornet, but he was a Charlotte Bobcat. And what we try to do
right near my heart, too, is my heart. Wait, is your heart on your right side or your left side?
It's your left side.
Okay,
So
he's not
that's
well. If my
that's
heart
not
were
our
on my
dog.
right side, it would.
Yeah.
It would be near my heart.
So that failed miserably. But Gerald Wallace is on the T-shirt. The Hornets did not fail miserably. We don't have to erase all Bobcats history. In fact, we have 2 Bobcats at least attire right now because I'm wearing the warm-up shirt that I like to bring out every once in a while. So, I don't know if anybody wants to go away because of the Bobcats or in
Hey,
your face,
speaking of the
embrace it.
Speaking of the Bobcats, the Hornets are struggling on offense right now.
There you go.
It is. How do you like that segue?
Yeah. You want me to get it together here? Yeah, for sure. The offense is struggling. And if you look at the star player for the Charlotte Hornets team, LaMelo Ball has not been all that great from the field here recently. In fact, if you look at the month of January, the highest percentage he shot so far is against Orlando in that loss when he shot 44.4%. Every single other outing has been below that. And you look at his three-point percentage, he's shooting just 28% from the three-point line in the month of January. You're talking about, as I try to count on the fly here, about 10 games or so. Doug, what have you noticed about this offense and LaMelo Ball specifically?
Well, I can give you some more stats. In the year 2021, or at least the beginning of the season before 2022, his points per shot attempt were 109.9 according to Cleaning the Glass. That's above average, 57th percentile among point guards with high usage as well. The usage has gone down. The points per shot attempt has cratered to 99.4. That puts him in the 21st percentile among point guards. Not great. What's also not great is the turnover percentage has gone up slightly, not a ton, but slightly. But the assist percentage has actually gone down. So and I don't know that part of that in the month of January could be the fact that the Hornets generally aren't shooting well. They just got done with a game where they started 0 of 19 from 3. So it's more difficult to get to rack up those assists for LaMelo Ball if everyone else isn't shooting well. We know PJ Washington has also struggled from the field. So, but that's a pretty stark drop too. Let me go. The assist percentage is 36% to 29.9%. Yeah, something's going on there. I mean, when I think back to these games in January and look over some of the film, he's getting similar looks. I mean, I think he's pretty balanced in terms of catch and shoot and making his own shot. Like he's taking these crazy long threes, but we've seen those go in. So I don't know how much of this is really structural and how much of it is just we've seen this before, by the way. Star player Kemba Walker for the Charlotte Hornets used to have like terrible Decembers in January. So this is not new.
Is that what it was?
Fans.
I was trying to think of what month that would be just the worst month for him. But
I think it was typically December, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but he would have a fire November though. he would come out guns a-blazing, and then he would cool off. Yeah, and this is what's happened with LaMelo. And if you compare it to last year, like you kind of did a little bit, you look at the free throw percentage though, Doug. I mean, it's night and day, except for the better this season. Still, the attempts are around the same, 3 compared to 3.2 last year, but he's shooting 89%. And often when you look at the free throw percentage, it's a good indicator of how good you can or might potentially shoot from the perimeter. And we've seen him still like 3-point, 36%. It's not bad. That's just fine. It's all about him hitting shots at the rim and hitting shots inside the arc. And that's always kind of been the thing with LaMelo, Doug. Like, that's the thing that can put him to superstardom, where coming into the league, he wasn't the greatest finisher at the rim. He was good on floaters, and people kind of pointed to that on looking at how dangerous he was inside the arc. But now he's just 41.6 from the field. His effective is down. I think you mentioned his true shooting. It's down as well, and even the assists are down. And so it doesn't mean that LaMelo, we have to panic and run around crazily saying, oh no, what happened to our superstar? It's just that right now what you're seeing is not exactly the same kind of efficient LaMelo that even we saw in the first month and a half of the season.
Well, before we get to this preview with the Raptors, let me give you one more interesting thought. So everything is upside down for the Hornets right now in the month of January. So overall on the season, they are 6th in offense and 23rd in defensive rating according to Cleaning the Glass, which takes out some garbage time minutes and different things like that. But 6th in offense, 23rd in defense. Over the last 2 weeks, it's completely flipped. They are 2nd overall in defense and 18th in offense. And so I just wonder if they've been expending a lot of energy on defense and really focusing on defense, and maybe the offense has slipped as a result, because I don't know that this team is really built to be a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. That's why we've been screaming about the need for a defensive center, because I think that allows them the opportunity to balance out the offense and the defense. And I think the big question for the Hornets, if they want to be playoff competitive with this current roster, is do they have the ability for stretches of time to be a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense? We haven't seen it to present.
Let's talk about a team that just constantly adds long defenders every single year in the Toronto Raptors. The Charlotte Hornets are playing them tonight, and it's Sean Woodley of Locked On Raptors going to be joining us in just a moment. But now, before I talk to you about Bet Online, they'd like to wish you a happy new betting year as they continue the march to the playoffs and beyond. Bet Online remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year, so they have a new updated desktop, and they have a new mobile website, so you can sign up today, and you can receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, you don't have to wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Raptors preview with Sean Woodley coming up next. Locked On Hornets podcast.
This is Locked On Hornets.
Then I clicked on M. Thomas. I'm like, who the hell is M. Thomas? Matt Thomas is his name.
Old NBA legend, Matty Thomas. Matt
he didn't play
Thomas,
at all.
I'm pretty sure Matt Thomas served me at an Applebee's the other day.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Raptors legend.
That's a
Matty
great
Thomas.
bump. Oh,
And
you
I don't know
brought-
why this thing keeps going to black. Hold on, let's get this out of here. There we go.
Well, you've brought some great bumps back, Doug. I appreciate it. Sean, how is Matt Thomas a bigger Raptors legend now than Vince Carter? Where does he rank in the pantheon in Toronto history?
It depends. There were a few local writers who really adopted Matt Thomas as their guiding light last year. That really fizzled out quite quickly. I do an annual ranking every year of every Raptor. It's a stupid, very time-consuming exercise
Which
that
we
I put
which we absolutely
far too
love
much
here.
effort into. But yeah, I think Matt Thomas fell somewhere in the deep 180s or something like that. Vince Carter a little bit higher than that.
Okay.
So yeah, do you remember top three?
Of course, I remember the top three. What are we
All right,
talking
hit
about?
me.
Kyle
Number
Lowry is number one.
Wait,
It's
hold
not
on. No,
even close.
hold on. No, let's do. Now we've
Okay.
just forget you heard that.
Bring
Let's
the
start.
fanfare, Doug.
Do you remember number? Yeah, I've got the fanfare. We can do this slowly. We can take our time. No, our bosses will get mad at us for taking our time, but we'll do it. Let's go. Number 5, fifth best Raptor of all time.
I think fifth best I have as Chris Bosh, although I'm ruminating on this year Pascal Siakam finally overtaking him.
Wow. Okay, Chris Bosh number 5, and then Pascal possibly going to pass him. That's pretty interesting.
Pascal.
Pascal. It is Pascal, right? Is it Pascal or Pascal?
No, I'm just
It's
saying
Pascal,
pass.
yeah,
I'm
that's
doing a thing with pass. Come on, Walker, keep it.
I don't know. I'm
He's gonna
I've been
Pascal.
trying, Doug, I'm glad you brought that up. I've been trying to figure out a way to do some sort of Pascal pun because of all the passes he's been throwing lately, as a new, fully revamped playmaker.
Make a pass
It's just-
calculator.
It's a very,
Make a pass
thing-
calculator.
That could work, but I'm having trouble. Maybe I'll steal that because I'm having a really hard time finding something that isn't just pass with 2 S's, Cal Siakam, and it's not a very good pun. Let me tell you, it's not my best work.
All right, that's fine. We love the puns here.
High
We
in
gotta
pass
keep moving.
calories.
Let's keep moving with the fanfare. Who's number 4 on your list, Sean?
I think 4 I have DeMar, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, DeMar I think comes in number 4. He's very
Okay.
good. We love DeMar up here.
Yeah, and I
Working
think
his way up the
Chicago.
Bulls
I was
rankings
about
now.
to say.
Yeah.
Certainly doing that with the Bulls as well. All right, who comes in at number 3?
Vince Carter, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know. All right, so Vince Carter does come in at number 3, and we already know number 1, but we're going to act like we didn't hear that. So I'm really interested to see who's going to be number 2. Drop it on us, Sean.
It's Terrence Ross. No, it's Kawhi Leonard. I think people kind of yeah, they take issue with
One-year
me
wonder.
putting him number 2, but I don't know. Did you watch him for the one season where he literally won a championship? Not on his own or anything like that, but kind of on his own in a lot of ways. Game 7 against the Sixers, he shoots 40 times, hits the shot. They don't win the title without him. So yeah,
Well, that's
Kawhi Leonard, number 2.
That's like Jamal Mashburn. People get mad at Walker and I for putting Jamal Mashburn high on the top
Yes.
30 Hornets of all time because he was, and Eddie Jones. People loved Eddie Jones several years.
Yeah,
didn't get the Hornets to a championship, but
No, that's right. You said Kawhi Leonard. That's just like Jamal Mashburn. Those are
Mm-hmm.
words that you said on this podcast. All right, number 1.
And I
who do you
stand
have?
by it.
Sean, we have no clue who's number 1 on your list.
Is Kyle Lowry. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes.
Yes, he
Yeah.
destroys. He was the destroyer of Charlotte
He was.
Basketball.
He was the destroyer of Charlotte. Kyle Lowry.
with that
Nope.
big booty.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he
It's-
destroyed a lot of people with his booty. He continues to destroy people with his booty. Even though heat culture is trying to, like, I'm sure, shame him into slimming down his booty, it's impossible. You can't.
That's like
do it,
cutting
and you
off
shouldn't do
Samson's
it.
hair. Is
Yeah.
it Samson? That's right.
Yeah, you can't
Samson.
do that. I hope that they're not doing
Samson
that
who?
down with heat culture. All right, let's talk about the Raptors that are currently on this team as we speak right now. As I mentioned, Sean, I mean, you guys that you go after a lot of defenders. Pascal Siakam still on the team. And then the first big-time surprise of the NBA draft was watching Toronto draft Scotty Barnes, who everybody loved and everybody had him higher than everybody else except for Toronto, apparently, right? Toronto, they selected Scotty Barnes over who everybody thought was going to be taken there at Jalen Suggs. What have you thought of Scotty Barnes so far this year?
He's pretty awesome, man. He already like fulfills my quotient for whether I think a player is good, which is he throws at least one no-look pass per game, which is really all I need from my basketball watching experience. In addition to that, he just like is a way more advanced scorer than I think anyone ever projected him to be. Like, he was branded by a lot of very smart draft people as a 0-level scorer coming out of the draft. And he's currently like shooting like 64% inside 3 feet. He's got a mid-range game. He's like kind of flirted with reasonable, average on kind of reasonable volume on threes as well. Like, he's been just bloody impressive as an offensive player to the point that, like, even though he's had some defensive misgivings, which I think you expect from any rookie, like he gets blown by a lot, he'll kind of break down in coverage. And I know for sure that, like, when there's a blown coverage, it's not Pascal Siakam or Fred VanVleet usually to blame. It's usually going to be Scotty Barnes because of how good those guys typically are. But even then, his offense has just been so impressive. I mean, he put up 27 points on Friday against the Wizards, basically just posting up dudes all night long. And then he can have a game where he's playing point guard for the team and he's finding guys on the run. And he's a really, really delightful basketball player to watch. And I think, kind of on the tier of LaMelo when it comes to funky, cool basketball players, he's just a blast. And he's been well ahead of schedule. And so, like, for me, my whole experience of the Raptors this season is it's all just gravy because Scotty Barnes is what matters the most. And he has been so good that, the results of this season doesn't really matter because he is way ahead of where anyone thought he would be.
Yeah, it sounds like he's profiling similar to LaMelo Ball out of the draft. Now, I don't think people thought that LaMelo Ball was a 0-level scorer coming into that draft, but they certainly had questions about his outside shot and about his offensive production in general, and he well exceeded those expectations in his rookie season. We did mention in the last segment he is struggling to shoot the basketball right now, and so are the Hornets in general. They started that last game against the Atlanta Hawks 0 of 19 from the field, so they've got some, as they improve their defense, they've got some offensive shooting struggles to figure out. Here's my question on the Raptors. Right now they're sitting at 500. Are they beating your expectations for this season, or are they somewhat behind your expectations? How do you feel about this Raptors team right now?
I mean, they're basically in line with what I expected. I predicted 42-40 at the start of the season, and they were 21-20 at the halfway mark. So listen to my podcast. I'm a genius. But I think for me, it has been, I think, even a better sort of season than I expected it would be, and it's been a more fun season to watch. It's a super weird and interesting team, which is kind of part of it. It's like way different than any team I've ever covered. They don't care about positions. They'll play lineups with 5, 6, 9 dudes where Chris Boucher's like the shooting guard, I guess. Like it gets super weird, super quick with this team. There have been some annoyances. Nick Nurse has played like 7 guys a night for the last couple of weeks here. Like, it's the playoffs and everyone's exhausted, and Fred VanVleet shooting poorly lately because I think he's just so damn tired from doing everything all the time. But it's been a really enjoyable year because you've seen just kind of like a bounce back from last year in Tampa from a lot of guys who you really wanted to see bounce backs from. I mean, in particular, Pascal Siakam, who was better than people give him credit for last year, but still kind of had this sort of stink on him from the bubble. This season, it's been entirely different. He's become like the best playmaker on the team. He's throwing out like 10 assist games left, right, and center. He's been really, really exciting while also getting back to his sort of peak defensive level as well. And it's just been great. And along with Scotty Barnes, Gary Trent Jr. has been a lot better than expected. I think the guys that really matter have been better than I expected. Fred VanVleet as well. I mean, he's going to be like a shoe-in all-star, maybe an all-NBA guy this year. He's been that good. Never would have foreseen that. And so even though the back end of the roster is kind of dragging things down and they're really struggling to string together wins because of that, the guys who matter have been better than I think anyone could have anticipated. So for me, they're in the green on this season for sure. And I think that you look towards next season and things get a little bit more exciting in terms of kind of ceiling type things.
And Walker, I don't know how you feel right now, but this game scares me a little bit for the Hornets because not because of the last blowout to the Atlanta Hawks. I think those shooting struggles are going to come back towards the mean, but I think defensively they're going to have they've had struggles this season with dealing with teams who put a lot of tall, long, lengthy players on the floor, athleticism, that kind of thing. So I don't know where your head's at on this game, Walker, but I'm a little scared.
Well, I mean, height and versatility is always going to be a problem, especially for the Hornets who they're just not very tall, right? Like we like to go small ball constantly with PJ Washington playing center as our best lineup. And you guys mentioned LaMelo Ball, Scotty Barnes, the profiles being very similar coming into their first year in the NBA. I actually viewed the Toronto Raptors very similarly altogether as the Charlotte Hornets. And Sean, I think we did a preview on one of the Locked On NBA previews that we did this year. We were on the same episode because we were kind of in the same tier. And both of us, I think, went with internal improvement, if I'm not mistaken, having such a big factor on how this team was going to play. Well, here the Hornets are. Miles Bridges is at least top 10 in the votes when it comes to Eastern Conference front court players. You talk about LaMelo Ball, who, even with the down shooting, has taken a step up this season. Guys like McDaniels, Cody Martin, really impressive. Terry Rozier has still stayed the same. We've seen a lot of improvement. I feel like that's kind of happened with Toronto, where you see Fred VanVleet, you just mentioned. You see Pascal Siakam coming back after having a disappointing year last year by expectation. Scotty comes in really good, going to be at least top 3 rookie of the year, probably behind only Evan Mobley at this point. So, it seems like there are a lot of similarities more so between these two teams than the Hornets have with any other franchise.
The biggest similarity is that both teams are trying to copy the Miami Heat. We're just both desperately trying to figure out how that team succeeds and copy it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I mentioned to Doug yesterday, I kind of see a lot of through lines. Also, just the team building that's kind of being done here where, there's a lot of sort of spreading of the wealth when it comes to, the top 5 or 6 guys in the team. They're all kind of putting up good numbers and they all kind of work well together. The fit's pretty nice, but maybe there's just that one missing ingredient. Neither team has a center either, which I guess is a very easy comparison. Yeah. Both pretty bad on the defensive glass, things like that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting the way they've gone about it. I think the Hornets obviously are a little bit less sort of eyeing up this Vision 6'9" as we've dubbed it up in Toronto. They're not quite going for that formula. And why would you? You got LaMelo, you've got Gordon Hayward, you've got a lot of interesting guys who just happen to be not 6'9". Why would you go and sell out your sort of guys that you have on hand to chase a different vision? But I think just in terms of trajectory, where these teams are in their sort of building towards their next competitive windows, I think they're pretty similar. I do have a question for you guys about this one. Doug, you mentioned to me that zone is kind of a heavy thing that the Hornets will use. As it turns out, the Raptors have gotten crushed by zones lately. The Wizards used it against them in their Friday game. The Raptors scored 18 points, almost blew a 14-point fourth quarter lead in that game. And then on Sunday against the Blazers, they were down 30 at halftime after they got zoned into oblivion by the Blazers and they just couldn't knock down a 3. This is an interesting matchup from that perspective too, because the Hornets are horrible on the defensive glass and the Raptors are the best team in the league on the offensive glass. So that's kind of an interesting inflection point, especially with how we know zones can affect defensive rebounding with the way guys are positioned and all that. How do you view the zone being a weapon or potentially the undoing because of the defensive glass in this one for the Hornets against the Raptors?
Yeah, I think they do the best they can on the defensive glass, but I think their focus is on, trying. They don't really need the defensive glass to push the pace. They can push the pace on missed shots. They can push the pace on made shots, and they really are aggressive in terms of trying to steal the basketball and generate extra possessions that way. And you have LaMelo, who is an assassin when it comes to steals, because he just has this otherworldly anticipation of where the ball is going to go. He knows where it's going to go before the person who's passing it knows where it's going to go. And so they try to generate more offense with their defense than and to make up for the fact that they're going to struggle defensive rebounding. Also, LaMelo and other players, they love to crash the glass and generate extra possessions that way. So, I think they try the best they can to cancel out some of their structural defects when it comes to that. I would just love to know, I think what would be fun for these crossover segments is just to exchange how we can beat each other's team. How are the Hornets going to lose this game? How are the Raptors going to lose this game? Nobody knows more intimately how a team is going to lose than the people that watch the team the most. So if Toronto loses this game, Sean, what happens? What happened to Toronto that they lost this game?
Yeah, I mean, I figured the Hornets probably zone up pretty hard and force them into taking a lot of threes, and their consistent struggles from downtown continue. OG Anunoby is one of their 3 knockdown guys they have. He's been kind of cold lately. Fred VanVleet's been kind of cold lately as well. Gary Trent Jr. is really the only guy right now and he's only been back from injury for a couple of games here too, but he's the only guy I really trust and feel like, yes, that catch and shoot is definitely going in. Fred normally has that. It's just been a bit of a rough go for him in the last couple of games here. He still finds a way, and he also is like a steals hawk too. So it's kind of like Spider-Man meme teams kind of once again pointing at one another. But yeah, I think they get flummoxed by the zone and they just miss a ton of shots, and their missed threes don't lead to short rebounds that they can collect and finish around the basket with. They lead to long rebounds, they lead to runouts for the Hornets in their transition game, which is a problem. And that was the problem against the Blazers on Sunday. So I do think there's already kind of a blueprint to really flummox the Raptors. And, if that happens, the Hornets will go up big in the first half. The Raptors will then have what we call a very friendly, or I guess colloquially, and with some sort of endearment, fake comeback. The Raptors are very good at them. They will sort of full court press you to oblivion in the second half, get it close. They got it to within 4 points against the Blazers in that game where they were down by 30 at halftime, and they couldn't quite put it over the finish line because they ran out of gas. That feels like the sort of blueprint for a Raptors loss here, I think. What about you with the Hornets?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at when you talk about the full court press, the Hornets are pretty equipped to handle that. Certainly with LaMelo, you do have some ball handlers that you can be okay with. So that would be an advantage for the Charlotte Hornets. I just think you guys are really good defensively when you go to Fred VanVleet, going to be right up in LaMelo, shorter than LaMelo, a taller point guard, so that's going to be tough for him. Then you talk about Scotty Barnes, you talk about Pascal Siakam. Can you neutralize the offensive threats of the Hornets all the way down the list? Miles Bridges, you take him away. Gordon Hayward, you take him away. Terry Rozier is going to have to put up a heroic effort, which he was crazy cold this last time out, but overall has been shooting very well the last couple of months or so. Is it going to take some kind of heroic Terry Rozier game while LaMelo continues to struggle from the field? Miles up and down, certainly with his shooting, actually more so down this year. I think just defensively, if the Hornets, it's one of those classic, can the Hornets get to 110? And if they do, you feel pretty good about it, considering the Raptors haven't gotten to that mark, I think, in the last couple of weeks or so. So it's just, you guys are really good defensively. You're so versatile from top to bottom. And the Hornets have a lot of guys that can score, but you're going to take a lot of that away with how good they are. So I think that's going to be the problem. It's, can the Hornets find transition buckets? Can they try to get the easy baskets as much as possible? And if they can, then the Hornets might come away with a victory.
And I think to that point as well, the way the Raptors decide to defend the Hornets will, I think, go a long way to deciding what happens here too, because they do a thing where they will send a lot of extra attention towards the best player on an opposing team and just hope that the guy who gets the corner three in the corner after a swing is going to miss it. It's been their strategy for a couple of years. It's not worked so well this year. And with the Hornets, there's a lot of threats out there. Yeah. I'm not super comfortable funneling those shots to. So do they play a more switch heavy scheme, which they have the capability to do? they just never do it. And it's very maddening because like they've built this team of 6'9" dudes who could easily defend everybody one-on-one, but instead they scramble and recover and fly around like maniacs. And I think against the Hornets, that could be a particularly dangerous strategy.
Well, and what's interesting too, you mentioned the corner three, Kelly Oubre. What was funny is how, he was historically bad with the Golden State shooting last year. But if you were to dive a little deeper on his corner threes, they weren't bad with Golden State. It was just everywhere else was so bad. And so now you see what Kelly's doing here, having a breakout season, being at least second in Sixth Man of the Year voting behind Tyler Hero right now. And so if Kelly can be that guy that, has the dagger for you every once in a while, then yeah, that would be great. Kelly, is he making shots, and can he make shots against Toronto? If not, he's probably not helping you. But that's something that would serve better for the Hornets if the Toronto Raptors do find themselves scrambling on team defense.
I know that not a lot of people are allowed in Scotiabank Arena right
now.
None
people are allowed, except for family and friends. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you can befriend one of the Raptors and sneak your way in there, I just want you to dap up the Raptor. Does the Raptor have a name? We were discussing it. We weren't sure if the Raptor mascot has a name.
Yeah, it's just the Raptor. Why overcomplicate things? It's just the Raptor, and it's it's been the same guy since 1995. He's been doing
it's Terry Raptor inside the Raptor.
Sure, yes. He's been doing some of his best work during this fanless experience.
I know. I wanted you
bothering Devin Booker.
Yeah, dap him up for me.
Raptors skulking around. We're not allowed to interact with the Raptor. It's there's a cone of protection around the Raptor. It's a very intense and kind of cultish thing. But I'm happily part of that cult.
Seems like a pretty good idea.
Just sneak in there and give him a little tail dap for us, because I'm not a huge fan of Devin Booker, so I really enjoy that.
There you go. So the Raptor and Doug Branson, two peas.
Little tail dap. Just give him one of these.
There you go.
Yep, exactly. I will do and say that's from Doug Branson, and then
he won't. Terry Raptor won't. He won't feel it. He can't feel the end of the tail.
Just make sure you do the sound effect with it as well, so he knows what you did. All right, Sean Woodley, Locked On Raptors, joining us on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Make sure you follow him on Twitter for great Raptors coverage.
What's he got?
Woodley,
what you got? You got some.
Yeah, I got a thing I got to show you guys. By the way, I told you a couple days ago. But for plugging things or whatever, I just wanted to plug. This is a thing I own. It is
that's fantastic.
Very large sweater. I bought at a vintage market one day.
Let's see that. Let's see that again in full screen mode.
Yeah, sure. Okay, here we go. Beautiful. It's a little toasty. I don't wear it often.
That's old school for the podcast listeners. It's an old school sweater. Is it a sweater or jacket?
The Game. I don't know what company that is, if they're still in business or not. But if there's a Hornets fan out there who wants to send me a bunch of money for this, I could be convinced to send it.
If you're listening right now, go to YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you're not a Raptors fan, just subscribe to Sean's. We just love subscribers. You don't have to watch. Just subscribe.
No,
that's all right.
Just like to juice the stats, baby.
Yeah, that's right. Is it embarrassing, by the way, that the Locked On Raptors host has a better Charlotte sweatshirt than I do, considering I'm wearing the Bobcats one?
That is.
I mean, that's really
embarrassing
because it's not even close. Sean clearly has a better sweatshirt about Charlotte. All right, follow him on Twitter at Woodley Sean. Thanks so much, man. Great hearing from you. We appreciate you hopping on with us.
Anytime, guys.
Sean Woodley, go check him out. Go check out a game recap as well. If you don't want to hear us break it down tomorrow, make sure you go check Locked On Raptors out. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Make sure you make your second listen Locked On Bets. It's hosted by your boy Q, and it's your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. You also get expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms, by the way. So again, make sure you go check it out. Thanks again for hopping on. West Wednesdays tomorrow. Wes Bryant, Valley Sports, Charlotte Hornets Insider will join us. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
What a boner for the Raptors.